Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the two Ewes of Two Ewes Fibra Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at 2UsFibraAdventures.com.
And we invite you to join our 2Use Fibra Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode.
Hi, Marsha.
Hi, Kelly.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. Feels like you were just here.
I was just there. I'm home now. I had a nice drive home, and everybody was thrilled to see the dog.
Yeah, I bet.
Not so excited to see, they were excited to see me, but not anywhere near as excited to see me as they were to see the dog.
Right.
So
well,
that's how it should be.
That's understandable.
I'm not as cute and cuddly.
Right. And you don't race around clicking your teeth and grinning when you see people you're excited to see.
Yes. So anyway, but no, I had a great time down there, but it is nice to be home. So
yeah.
Getting caught up on things, mostly just sort of cleaning the house and paperwork, and I had a lot of bills to pay that had sort of piled up, both mine and then, of course, stuff for the estate. Mm-hmm. And anyway, I just been busy doing things. And we've had some nice... Oh,
I was just going to say, I just finally, this past weekend, during one of the days of the weekend, unpacked my suitcase and organized, took all the stuff out of the different bags that I packed and got it all organized. I thought, okay, how many weeks has it been since Knockers? 2, 3? I should probably do this now.
Yeah. I had taken the clothes out and washed them, but the suitcase is still sitting in the spare bedroom. Yeah. But I did go through all of my projects because I still had not gone through all the stuff from Stitches.
Oh, right, yeah. Because
I left it in California. Yeah, I left it in California, so I got that all put away and organized. And but then I thought there's no reason to put my suitcase away because I'm going down in June to Black Sheep. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, that is almost a little less than 2 months away, but why make extra work for myself, right?
Well, I had to unpack my suitcase because I'm leaving tomorrow afternoon for a work conference.
Yeah.
So it's not that I'm virtuous or anything.
Anyway, so we have a little bit of business.
Yeah.
Let's just start off with prizes.
Okay.
Yay.
Yes. So we had 2 things finishing up. One finished up a while ago and we just weren't ready to draw the prizes. That was the Winter Weave Along. And then the other one just finished today, May 1st. And that's the Sheep Thrills Knit Along, which I have to say I failed.
Well, and I failed too.
I really don't consider it a failure. I've been meaning to make these bobble sheep pillows for so long, and the fact that I got one half done is a win. So I'm still happy about it. But I did think I would have more. I thought I would get more accomplished than I did.
Well, and I was making pretty good progress, on my tea cozy that I'm making. But I made a mistake, and I just have to unknit one row.
The things that stop us. Yeah.
But there's things that stop us, and then also, and I find that knitting and spinning, and it's a pleasurable activity. And so if something's not really pleasurable, I kind of stop it. And not to say that tea cozy was not pleasurable. It's just there's other things that were more exciting to me than which is a terrible thing to say, really, given that it was our contest. I'm saying this about our own contest. But I was having to do, it was color work on double pointed needles, and it was kind of a struggle. I will get back to it, and I will finish it. And also, I think, it's been so many years since I've done color work. I really think I need to take a color work class because I know with color work you want to pull it the floats, whatever the word, the yarn that goes in the back that you're not knitting with. When you then start knitting with it, you want to pull it tight enough that you're not having gaps, but not so tight that it puckers. And I was trying really hard not to pull it tight, or so I thought. And it seems like the tea cozy has no stretch to it. And so I don't think it's even going to fit over my teapot. And the other thing that I should say to probably, that's just the nature of Fair Isle knitting or color work, is that it's not going to have a lot of stretch.
Yeah.
It's going to be less stretchy than just plain stockinette. But I am concerned that it is not. So I want to talk to Kim about it because she knows so much about color work, and have her take a look at it. And I just haven't had the opportunity. And then I really think I need to take a color work class just because I'm curious, I'm interested. And I think there's no point in making this whole tea cozy and have it not look, and not have it usable.
Then you have to go find a small teapot.
I have to go find a like one of those little restaurant teapots, that has, or a child's tea set.
Oh dear.
Anyway, yes, back to the contest.
Okay, so first I'll do the weave along, since that finished a while back. That finished at the end of March, and then April just kind of whizzed by us. So I have 2 prizes for the winter weave along, and one is for the finished object thread. And so I selected with a random number generator from my calculator, and the winner is Greta. And Greta's name on Ravelry is Miss Isabel, and she was one of the very first people who posted in the finished object thread. She made an owl out of squares with a pin loom. It's really cute. It's really kind of cool that she's the winner, because the prize is a heart-shaped loom that's, a wooden heart with nails around it that you use. I think that's what a pin loom is. I've seen different kinds of pin looms, things called pin looms, but I think that's what she meant when she said pin loom, is the same kind of loom as this heart-shaped loom. So Greta will be winning that prize.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And the loom is from Hazel Rose Looms, and you can see some of her work on hazelroselooms.com. I bought it at Lambtown. She has all different sizes and all different shapes of these looms that you can make small pieces and then put them together. And she has really interesting, at the show, she had some really interesting things that she had made with the pieces from the pin loom. And so anyway, I thought it was fitting that was the prize, and that it was Greta who made an owl out of her weaving project. So cool. Congratulations to Greta. And then we had a really big active discussion thread. And so I decided to go ahead and pull a prize from that too. I think we had over 300 posts in there. And there was a lot of interest in the weave along, so we'll definitely do it again. But the prize for the chatter thread is a book, a weaving book. It's called Simple Woven Garments, 20 plus projects to weave and wear. And this was given to us by F&W Press. Marsha and I did a review of this book. I don't remember what episode it was, but maybe a year or 2 ago, we did a review of this book. And so I have a copy of the book to give away. The prize winner for that one I drew is Chain Stitcher. Chain Stitcher 1, and that's Ruth, and she's from Indiana. And she's a relatively new listener, she said, but she'd been listening through back episodes and was really excited about the weaving. So,
okay, cool.
Ruth, get in touch with me. And also Greta, send me a message on Ravelry with your address when you hear this, and I will send out your prizes.
Yeah, very nice. Congratulations to everybody.
Yeah.
It was a fun contest. And the weaving thing was fun too.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I like I said, I didn't do as many of the little lessons as I had originally planned, and I didn't weave as much as I had originally planned to. But I guess that's just common. I always bite off more than I can chew, with projects. So, and that's part of the fun of it.
Yeah.
So, and then the Sheep Thrills prize is a pattern of your choice up to $8. And the winner of that one is Sherry Fleece Flicker 01 on Ravelry, and Sherry made a hat with, it was a kit, and it had instead of a pom-pom, it had a stuffed sheep's head, like a stuffed animal toy type head. And so she made one of those hats. And it's really kind of cute. It looks like the sheep is wearing a skirt. I mean, it's a hat. It could be a hat, but it could also just be the sheep wearing a dress, but it doesn't have, any arms.
Do you remember at the Knockers retreat, Joanne was making a hat with a giraffe?
Yes, exactly.
And I bet it's the same company, I bet.
Yeah, it would have been the same. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. It's probably the same company. The same exact idea. Very cute.
Yeah.
So,
a giraffe wearing a skirt and a sheep wearing a skirt.
Yeah. I thought that was a good idea to have a little pom-pom that's actually the head of an animal. So those are our prizes. And again, Sherry, go ahead and send me a message. Let me know what pattern you'd like, and I will get that pattern for you. It's a pattern on Ravelry. It has to be a pattern on Ravelry. Then I'll just get it, and it'll go right into your Ravelry library.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. We don't have anything planned right now for future alongs, but I'm sure something will pop up.
Yeah, we'll come up with something, yeah. Should we talk about our project updates then?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I have a finished project that goes along with the weave along. I warped for some Christmas dish towels in December before Christmas, but I knew I wasn't going to finish them for Christmas. I just was kind of in the mood to wind a green and red warp, so I did that. And then I finally got it on the loom, and I'd been weaving on them over the last maybe, couple months. Finished them this past weekend, got them washed and hemmed. I was impressed with myself that I was able to do that so fast. So they're off the loom, they're hemmed, they're washed, they're folded, they're put away with the Christmas stuff.
Very nice. I think they look really pretty, yeah.
Thanks. I ended up with 7 of them. I think I warped for 6. I didn't take good notes, but I think I warped for 6, and I ended up with 7 because I probably just accounted for more loom waste than I actually had. So that was good. Maybe I warped for 8. And I only ended up with 7 because after the first 2, I realized I had a threading error. And I had to cut the 2 off and fix the error. So I used up more than I expected by having to retie it. So that's probably what happened now that I think about it. I probably warped for 8 and then lost some to the retying.
Yeah.
But anyway.
That does make more sense. But Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice.
So that's finished. They were Swiss Twill from the Marguerite Davison book. And then the other thing I finished was at the Knockers retreat. I had a challenge to myself last year that I decided to accept. No one else accepted this. Well, actually, that's not true. Tracy's doing it too. Thumperina was doing it too. The challenge was to select yarn from the D-Stash room and cast on a project. And so Marsha actually selected the yarn, and I would get extra points, those imaginary points you give yourself in a contest that means nothing.
Yeah, right.
I would get extra points if I could use needles from the D-Stash room and a pattern from the D-Stash room. So I used needles from the D-Stash room, and then I used the Ricky hat pattern. And there were a bunch of people who were making the Ricky hat at Knockers. So I cast on a Ricky hat for Marsha, and turns out the yarn was hand spun. It was made by a woman who had attended the retreat in the past. Her name is Susan Kismet on Ravelry. It was her hand spun from Into the World, and it had ended up in the D-Stash, and it made a really great Ricky hat.
Yes, and when we first spoke today, just to talk, before we recorded, I was saying that I washed it, and it is beautiful. The yarn that when you were knitting with it, it had a little bit of
it was a little hard.
roughness. a little harsh kind of, And when you finish the hat, I tried on. It was not uncomfortable, but it just had
kind of a
quality
stiffness,
to it.
right?
Yeah, very stiff. Anyway, when I washed it, very soft, and the yarn, it relaxed. And so, the Ricky hat is a slouchy hat, and it wasn't very slouchy before I washed it. And now that I've washed it, it's got the perfect slouchiness.
Oh, good.
I haven't been wearing it because you did the variation that you do your own technique is where you make that little flap, so then you can put a button on there. And I don't have a button yet to put on there, so I need to. And I, unlike you, Kelly, I don't have a stash of buttons. Thank God. Anyway,
moving on. Right.
So I am going to have to go buy a button for it. But anyway, it's just really interesting how the yarn changed, or once it was washed.
I'd be interested to see it. I'm guessing maybe the skein never got washed.
Probably.
I know I have skeins that for some reason or another I forget. I get them finished, plied, and then I never get them in the water to wash them. And so maybe that's why I didn't really think about that while I was knitting with it. But that makes sense. It
was kind of fun though to find out who had spun the yarn.
Yeah,
and to look at it. We were kind of like detectives.
And it's on her. Well, we didn't have to do too much detective work because there was a tag on the yarn.
We just had to look her up on Ravelry, but anyway.
But it was in her project page, her handspun project page. So I went ahead and linked her project page to my project page for the hat. And then because so many people were doing the Ricky hat at Knockers, I put a thread in the... I think it was maybe in the Two Knitlet Chicks discussion board, show us your Ricky hat. And in that, I ear burned her. So if she's on Ravelry, she'll see it. I don't know. But anyway, I thought that was really cool to know whose handspun it was. So
it's very pretty. It's sort of purple and brown
blue.
And
yeah.
Very pretty.
I enjoyed knitting with it, I have to say. And I was able to... I didn't quite finish it at the retreat. I didn't start it until Saturday afternoon. I finished it the next day. It's a very fast, very quick knit.
Yeah. Well, and it's... isn't it normally made with sock weight yarn?
No.
Fingering weight yarn? Oh, is this... Okay.
DK, I think.
Okay.
So I had a few... fewer stitches because this was more like a... I think it was more like a worsted weight. Yeah. So I adjusted the cast on. Yeah. So those are my finished objects.
Okay. And then what are you working on right now?
Well, right now, this very instant moment, I'm working on the Never Will I Ever Again socks. They're still, because I had to rip them out and start again. I'm still not doing them 2 at a time because I'm trying to get back to virgin yarn. So once I get them back to the place where I was when I ripped them out, and I'm not remembering why I ripped them out now. Maybe they were too small, and I can't remember. But I ripped them out and started over. And since it's from a sock blank, I had to wind the yarn up into balls, and so now I have to get those balls of yarn gone before I can put them back on my needles 2 at a time and actually continue my little experiment of knitting socks 2 at a time. So we'll see. I am not real thrilled with the technique at the moment, but I bought a double sock blank, and I just think it would be a shame to not use this double sock blank knitting socks 2 at a time. Yeah. So, and I could use a pair of, right now they're purple, and it will grade into orange. But I'm not sure it feels like I'm not going to get very far into this sock blank, but...
It's a very long gradient.
It is. And so I think my socks are going to have to be very tall. We'll see. Maybe not. Right now they just feel like they're taking forever because I've now knitted them twice. And it's kind of slow knitting. So that's what I'm working on right at the moment. But what I have been working on Not much over the last week. I really have not done a lot of knitting over the last week and a half or so. But the Summer Fjord, my linen tee, I finished the ribbing on the bottom. So now that's done. And now I have to pick up around the sleeves, pick up around the neck. And I think I'm going to do your trick of picking up around the neck and doing the neck line first. There's like a crochet edging on the neck, I think. I have to look. I got the ribbing on the bottom done, and it has a short rows, so the ribbing on the back side is longer, which is kind of cool. I haven't ever done that before, where you make ribbing longer on one side of the sweater than the other. But so anyway, I did that, and that's done. And now I have to figure out what the instructions are for the neckline, because you have to do something to finish off the neckline. And then I'm going to pick up for sleeves. And you basically just do a little bit of ribbing on the sleeves, and it makes a little cap sleeve. But I'm going to make the sleeve a little bit longer. So there's that one, getting close, very close to finished. And then the Argyle socks. I ended up having to rip some out, and then they sort of sat for a while I figured out what I did wrong, and now I'm back to knitting on those. I'm about halfway into the diamond on the second sock, so I got a ways to go on those. So those are the ones I've been working on. Like I said, I didn't do anything on that sheep, and then I started a new project.
Oh.
Because I need a new project, because I'm going away for the weekend for travel, and I need some travel knitting. So while we were at Knockers, Janice, our friend, Wild Pony 2 on Ravelry, she brought a pattern called Summer, and she said, "Here, why don't you knit this? I want to knit it, and then you can knit it, and then you can tell me, whether it's a good thing to knit, and then you'll know how it's knitted, and it looks like something you'd like." So, and she was right. It's really cute. It's a tank top with a V sort of chevron design in the front and back, and then garter stitch down the sides. And yeah, it's really cute. And as luck would have it, I had a DK weight tank sweater quantity that I've been trying to figure out what to do with. It was perfect.
Well, and I'm going to interrupt to say, when you were going through your yarn to take to decide what to take to the D-stash room at Knockers, you put that in the pile to take to or you were standing there saying, "I think I'm going to put this in the D-stash."
Yeah, I had given up on it. Yes.
Because how many years did you think you were going to take it and then didn't do it? And I said, well, give it one more year before you put it in the D-stash room. And if you don't do anything with it this year, then next year it's definitely going in the D-stash.
Yeah, because I've had this
pattern.
I've had this yarn for like 10 years. Yeah. And the last couple of years I've been going to D-stash it, and then hemmed and hawed and didn't do it. So yeah, it was perfect. It was just perfect that Janice showed up with this pattern. So I'm making it. The designer is Mari Chiba, and we laughed about the pattern because the model is it's a paper pattern, and the model on the front of the pattern it honestly looks like the designer asked her teenage daughter, to model.
Her sullen teenage daughter.
And the teenage daughter was so disgusted. She looks like she's in the middle of the most huge eye roll you could ever make.
Yes. It's the funniest picture. I don't know why they picked that picture for the pattern.
No, I don't know either. It's very unattractive.
It was an odd choice, yeah.
That poor girl, when she grows up, is going to be... maybe that was her punishment. You act like that in a photo shoot, and this gets to be your picture. Anyway, it's a very cute top, and I'm looking forward to working on it this weekend. It's bottom up, and I'm doing a little bit of math, which we can talk about in a bit, because I think you and I are doing some of the same kind of math, because I did not get the gauge that I was supposed to get for this pattern. So I'm doing a little bit of adjusting for that. But anyway, so that's my projects. That's what I've been doing. What about you?
Okay. Well, I've been working on Little Wave by Gudrun Johnston. And I'm using the Neighborhood Fiber Company Studio Worsted. And I worked on that pretty much exclusively when I was down there visiting you and going at the knockers. And I had done the ribbing on the body. It's a bottom-up raglan sleeve. I'm sorry, not raglan sleeve. It's a saddle shoulder cardigan with a shawl collar. Anyway, I had done the ribbing, which is maybe 20 rows or something. And then I knit almost to the underarms while I was visiting you. Came home, I had maybe 5 more rows. So I've now have knit up to the underarms, and I've set that aside. And now what I do is you knit the 2 sleeves, and then I'm going to attach them somehow to the sweater. And I've never done this process before, but I'll attach them, and then I'll do the yoke and the shoulder shaping. And we've talked about this, but the pattern, the sleeves are extra long, and then the ribbing on the cuff, you're actually supposed to fold back at your wrist, and that folds back over the stockinette. And I decided I didn't want that. I just wanted to have ribbing. And so I had to figure out where I was going to start to allow for where to start the. Let me just back up. I did a provisional cast on instead of just casting on and doing the ribbing as they suggested. I did a provisional cast on, and I had to figure out where I was going to start this provisional cast on. So then when I attach the sleeves to the body, I can pick up those stitches and knit down. And I did that for 2 reasons. The main reason why I did that is I wanted to be able to then make sure the sleeves were the right length. I didn't want to knit the entire sleeve, attach it to the body, and then find out it's too long or too short.
Right.
So that's why I'm doing this. So we had to have a conversation on the phone about the math, how to figure out how many inches to take off the stockinette part of the sleeve to allow for the ribbing of the cuff. So I'm 3/4 of the way done with the first sleeve.
Oh, wow.
And then, so then I'll just have to do the second one, and then I'll pick up and I'll have to figure out how to do these saddle shoulders. And so you'll probably be getting a phone call from me, or several phone calls from me, because as you know, Kelly, and I'm sure listeners know, sometimes you have to just talk out loud and walk through a pattern to figure it out.
Once you say it out loud to somebody else,
you have to say it out loud.
It becomes clear,
So I'm working on that. My 2 shawls, I've been working on the simple shawl and the Elenia. Those are kind of on hold. I've just set those aside. If I do work on them, if I'm at some place where I need mindless knitting, then I take those with me. But I did cast on the same T-shirt that you're doing, the Summer Fjord.
Nice.
And it's now remind me, Kelly. It calls for lace weight, right? Is it
fingering weight?
It fingering weight? It's fingering weight, and so you're using lace weight,
right?
yarn.
But I didn't change the gauge or anything. I used the size needles that gave me the gauge. It's just very open, and I'll wear a tank underneath it. Okay. So I'm using the Fibra Natura Flax, which is 100% linen, and it's DK weight. And the reason I was searching for a pattern, because the class that Elizabeth Doherty had given us about linen is linen tends to bias, and my swatch, it biased pretty significantly. And the way to prevent that is to break up the stockinette with other patterns. I didn't want to make a third Edie. And also the Edie, the pattern is broken up, but it's just broken up by 5 rows of linen stitch. And linen stitch is basically stockinette, right? Yeah. I mean, just that the yarn is... Anyway, so I thought, I'm not sure, and I just don't want to make another one. So I thought of your T-shirt because it has all this patterning. It's rows of garter and... Doesn't it have linen stitch and... Yeah, linen stitch, and then it has like a garter ridge, like three garter ridges, and then some more kind of interesting linen stitch with purling. It's not just a straight linen stitch.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that would be a good T-shirt, but there was the issue of the fact that I'm using a different yarn. So and now cross your fingers that this is all going to work out. Because the swatch is supposed to get something like 7 stitches to the inch, I believe. And I was getting 5.5 stitches to the inch on size 5 needles. Mm-hmm. And so what I decided to do because this top has a lot of ease, so I cast on for the extra small, which is, I would never make something extra small, but I cast on the extra small, and I think I'll have it'll be about 47 inches around, which will give me, and it says to wear it with something like 6 to 8 inches of ease. So in theory,
right,
this will work.
Right.
The only thing is the pattern you knit. What have I done? You cast on for the back, and I'm going to knit down to the armholes. Then you go and you pick up stitches and you knit the front, the left side and the right side down to the armholes. The only thing is that the armholes for the small, the patterns say they're supposed to be like 5 1/4, 5.5 inches, under 6 inches, which I think is not going to be enough. So
remember, your gauge will be, you don't want to do the inches, you'll have to do the calculation of how many rows that is.
Right, because that's not going to be enough.
Right.
So I'm going to have to make it. Well, yes, I have to count my rows. Mm-hmm. Exactly. I have to count my rows to figure out how. So anyway, that's the adjustment I'm going to have to make is the size of the armholes.
Yeah.
Because the extra small will be too small for me.
Right. And if the pattern had told you how many rows to do,
exactly,
you'd probably be able to just do that many rows and it would work out close.
Right.
But
because they're telling me inches, I am going to have to adjust that. So anyway, I'm interested to see how it's going to turn out. I will say it's interesting knitting on 100% linen. I like knitting on it. I don't like purling on it.
Oh, interesting.
And it's interesting that because there's no stretch to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem as fluid knitting on linen. It's a little more. I'm not describing it the right way, but because wool stretches, so it's a very elastic kind of. It can be, and this is like knitting with twine. There's no elasticity in it, so the knitting part is easy, but the purling, sometimes I have a hard time getting the stitches. When I knit the stitch, I have a hard time getting it off the left needle onto the right needle. It's weird, and it could just be technique.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm working on that, and let's everybody keep your fingers crossed that the math works out.
I think the calculations that you did were fine because you took your gauge, you took their gauge and figured out how many inches that is, and then you took your gauge to see how many inches you'd get, and, how many stitches you'd need, and then you were able to see, if I use the stitch count for the small, I get the size, the number of inches that I need. See, I did the exact reverse thing for the summer because my stitches were too small, not too big. So I'm actually, even though all the comments in the project pages say that they knit one size smaller than the pattern called for, and a lot of people had to rip it out and go back and size it down. I'm actually using the stitch counts for the size medium and hoping that will give me the size that I'm looking for. Based on my gauge, it should. The gauge and stockinette. Now, the only question is whether the stitch pattern with all those chevrons will actually end up being bigger. Will be different than the stitch pattern, the gauge and stockinette. But I don't think it'll be that much. I don't think it'll be a problem. I'm actually thinking that some of the people who had the problem in their project pages maybe didn't do a swatch. And just said, oh, yeah, okay, this DK yarn with this needle, because I could not, I don't know what size needle I'd have to use to get, I'm using a DK yarn, not the yarn called for in the pattern, but another DK, it's a Valley Yarns Long Meadow, I think is the yarn I'm using. It's a cotton acrylic blend. So anyway, it's another DK weight, and I don't know what size I'd have to go down to. I went down a needle size, didn't come close. I would have had to have been knitting bulletproof fabric to get that dense of a gauge. I mean, anyway, so yeah. I'm already, that's wrong. The other way around. I would have had to have been knitting it super, super open to get the gauge that I was supposed to get. And, I don't think... That wouldn't have been a good fabric for a shirt. So anyway.
I'm just going to throw in here tonight, because we are going to talk a little bit about the Knockers retreat, but at Knockers, Elizabeth Doherty did a class, just a demonstration about gauge, and everybody knit the same yarn and the same needle size, and then washed or measured the swatches, the same number of stitches and the same number of rows. And then everyone measured the swatches, the number of stitches per inch, and also the number of rows per inch, and then washed them and remeasured them. And they had them all laying out on a table. And it was amazing, the different sizes.
Yeah. Wildly
so there's this,
different.
I mean, it was amazing how much variation there was in the size. And because what Elizabeth was saying is that a lot of times people say, well, if I'm using the same needle size and the same yarn that the pattern calls for, I will get the same results. But because everybody knits differently, it doesn't work that way. You still need to do a swatch.
Yeah.
That was real hard evidence that we knit differently, even though...
Yeah. Everyone's swatches were different.
Yeah.
So, it'll be interesting to see, since you've done a recalculation in one direction and I've done a recalculation in the other direction. I will be interested to see how it comes out.
Yes. We may be very happy. We may be very sad. Yeah. One of us may be very happy. One of us may be in tears. Who knows? We'll see. Yes. So it'll be an experiment.
But hopefully my experience will be helpful to Janice when she's ready to do hers.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Of course, she'll be doing a different yarn and a different gauge.
You're right. So the last project I want to talk about is my combo spin. I've made 3 skeins of yarn. And now I've finished the first of my 3 bobbins I need to make more yarn, because it's a 3-ply. But I just wanted to talk about, Kelly and I the two of us, we had a conversation about how to figure out what is the percentage of the different fibers in the combo spin. So I just want to look at my iPad here, because I am not a math person, and thank goodness Kelly is a math person, so she can help me with all this. So I have a total of 22 ounces of fiber. But like in a 4-ounce braid, like this first one, I had a 4-ounce braid of huckleberry knits, and it was 80% merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. I had another one that was another 4-ounce braid that was 85% Polworth and 15% silk. I had another one that was 50-50 merino silk. Another one that was merino, Shetland, and silk. And so it seemed like I had a lot of the braids, and I had one braid that was just 100% silk, one that was 100% Tasmanian comeback. And so I said to Kelly, how do I figure out, of the 22 ounces, what percent is merino, what percent is silk? And so you helped me with the math.
Yeah, it was a mixture problem.
Yes.
Remember those problems? If you have a 20% acid solution and you're going to mix it with a 40% acid solution to get a 35% acid solution, how much do you have to mix together?
So I did pretty good. So the first part is I just went through each braid. So like the first one, the huckleberry knits, if I have a 4-ounce braid, 80% of it is the merino. Mm-hmm. I just multiplied 4 ounces by 80 or 0.8, and I figured out then what the percent or how many ounces were merino, and then I had 20% left over. That's just, and I had that, so that was 10%. What am I trying to say? 10% was cashmere, 10% was nylon. So if I had 20% left over, I just cut that in half and figured out what the ounces were.
Right. So you can know how many ounces of each type of fiber you have.
Yeah. So the same thing with the
percentage to ounces.
Yeah. So the same thing with the Polworth. If it was 85% of a 4-ounce braid was Polworth, I could just multiply 4 ounces by 0.85, and I could figure out how many ounces were the Polworth, and then the difference was silk. So but then I had all those ounces, and I'm like, okay, but now what do I do with them? I have to figure, and so I knew, and this is where Kelly came in, because I did know that if I was multiplying, I had to divide to get back to, but I couldn't figure out what numbers I was supposed to divide. And I'm sure probably because I am not a math person and I took math, I probably did this when I was in school, but I don't think I ever fully understood it. anyway, so what you said is you take the percentage equals the ounces divided by the total ounces.
Right.
So, for example, I ended up having 32% merino, which was 6.95 ounces. So I took 6.95 ounces and divided it by 22, which is my total ounces. Isn't that right? Mm-hmm. And I got 32%. So I just did that with all of them. So anyway, I ended up out of 22 ounces, 32% is merino, 30% is silk, 1% is nylon, 15% is Polworth, 18% is Tasmanian comeback, and 4% is Shetland. And I have to say, I did kind of round those a little bit. It's like some of them ended up being point blah, blah, blah. Like the nylon, I think, was less than 1%, but I just rounded them to the closest number. But that was an interesting, so I might go back and do it with the other ones I did, because it is interesting to know, now this is going to have, 30% silk.
That's going to be nice.
Is quite a bit. It's almost a third of it is going to be silk.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see how the fabric, when I start knitting, doing swatches to figure out what I'm going to make, what my gauge is, and it's going to be interesting to see what the fabric is like. If it's
I bet it's going to be very different than the other. Mm-hmm. Well, especially different from your first one, which was all wool.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. So anyway, that was just an interesting project, or just interesting, the math, because it's not my strong point.
Oh, you do okay.
At least I know what questions to ask.
Yeah, well, and you know more than you think you know.
Yeah.
You have a logic about it.
I know enough that if you multiplied, you have to divide now to get back to where you were.
Right. And if you can think about it in terms of shots.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, then I can really figure it out.
Shots in a Manhattan or...
Yeah. Anyway, so, but that's it for my projects.
All right. Well, it sounds like we've both made some progress. You've made more than I have, I think, but yeah, well, that's good.
Well, I spend a lot. Well, I stay up way too late. That's part of my problem. Is that, I make dinner and then clean up from dinner, and then I sit and knit till significantly late hours.
Yeah. Well, and I've had a night class this semester, which has sort of cramped my style a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then on the nights when I don't have the class, I don't know. I sort of had other things. I started reading. I'm reading back through the alphabet mystery series, Sue Grafton. I started this project last year because I knew Z was going to be, I was anticipating Z coming out and I wanted to be ready. And then when she died, it's like, okay, well, I really now want to finish this where I read through all of them. So I'm now up to, I just finished Q and I've just started R. So I've been doing some of that kind of reading, and I can't read an actual book and knit at the same time. I can listen to a book. Oh,
so knit. You're actually reading them. Not listening.
No, I'm not listening. That's one of my rules. I'm not allowed to listen to a Sue Grafton book as an audiobook.
Oh, why not?
Because I don't want a different voice. I had already started the series, and Kinsey already has a voice in my head. I already know her, and I don't want to mess that up. So I have rules like that about my audiobooks.
You have a lot of rules, Kelly, like points for starting casting on a project.
Exactly. Crazy rules that make up my life.
So what else were we going to talk about? Should we talk a little bit about knockers?
Sure.
So we talked about the D-stash room.
Oh, but we didn't talk about your D-stash.
My D-stash.
The thing you got.
So I have to say, it's very funny. So I was very good. I came back with, I think I have 4 skeins of yarn. One of them I was not going to take. It's just Cascade 220. And I was standing there, and Tracy, Thumperina, said, "Here, you need this," and just handed it to me. And I'm so compliant. I said, "Oh, okay." No, but she knew about that. I made that Afghan out of my dad's sweater, and I'm talking about making one for my brother. And so I have been not that I needed it because I have plenty, but she said, you take this and over dye it. So anyway, I have that. But no, the funny thing is there was a dress form in the knockers room, and I kept thinking it showed up on Thursday, I think, because we got there Thursday.
It was there early on.
Yeah, it was there when we arrived. And so I kept thinking, it's there for people to put sweaters on to model them or something.
Right.
And I think it was the last day. I think maybe it was Saturday. Oh, it was Saturday night. Yes, it was Saturday night. We were sitting out before dinner. We're sitting out under one of the trees. And I said, what is going on with that dress form? And Tracy said, of the two knitlet chicks, said, it is, take it. So I'm like, well, I'll take it. And I go in and I get the dress form. And Kelly, do you want to tell the rest of the story?
Yeah. So this is really funny. After dinner, or maybe before dinner, anyway, after Marsha had gone to the D-stash room and gotten this dress form, I went back to our room. And the rooms have these little twin beds in them. They remind me of the nun beds in your mom's house. Yeah. They're very spare. Maybe they're twin size. Maybe they're a little smaller, but they're very small. But there's not much else in the room. It's a little desk. It's a small, a tiny little room. So I go back to the hallway and I go into our room and I open the door and there's someone in the bed. The covers are up over somebody and I'm like, wait, my stuff. You know how something goes through your mind really quickly? It takes me way longer to say it than what actually went through my mind. But what's going through my mind is there's someone in the bed. I'm in the wrong room, but my stuff's here on my bed, but I'm in the wrong room. And then I actually even walked out the door and looked at the number to make sure that I had gone into the right room, even though I could see my stuff was right there. And then I started cracking up, and I realized that Marsha had put the dress form in the bed.
And then I put your hat on her.
Put the hat on the top of the head or on the neck, so it didn't look like there was just no head.
She doesn't have a head.
She doesn't have a head. Yeah. So anyway, it shocked me. It was so funny walking in there. It scared me thinking I had gone into somebody else's room who was taking a nap. Just like, oh my gosh, it's so funny. But then that's not the funniest part.
The funniest part is I go back to the room and I do the exact same thing that Kelly did because I forgot I put her in the bed. So I walk in there. I'm like, oh my God, someone's in bed. And I walk out. I look at the number.
Oh my God,
so
you
funny.
Tricked yourself.
Yeah. So anyway, the whole thing, she collapses. And, but I have to tell you the rest, there's more to the story, Kelly, though, because I bring her home and I have her standing. I put her together, and she's just in the living room. And I freaked Ben out. And then I moved her out of the living room because I've always wanted a dress form because when I sewed, I always wanted one, and I haven't sewn for years, and I would like to start sewing. So I thought, this is perfect. I want to have this dress form. And the other reason I really wanted it is I had two sweaters that had been done for months. One I finished before knockers, and one I finished before I went to Scotland, and I couldn't take pictures of them. And I don't like to say that my project on Ravelry is done until I actually have a finished photograph of it. Mm-hmm. So what's beautiful about her is I can just put my sweaters on her and take her picture and be done. I don't have to wait for Ben to take a picture of me or find someone. So that was really nice. So I had her in the bedroom against my blue bedroom wall to take pictures and left her in there. And then I don't know how many times a day I would walk into the bedroom and startle myself.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, but I have to tell you, we decided that she needed a name.
Yes.
And when we were leaving, I think when we were pulling out of the parking lot and headed out of the retreat center, we were thinking what we should call her. And finally, I said, how about Blythe Spirit? Because Blythe is a woman's name. It's from a movie. I think it was originally a play, but it's a movie. And she came from the D-Stash room, and of course we always call the D-Stash yarn Spirit yarn. So she's Blythe Spirit.
Blythe Spirit.
And she's scared. And like Blythe Spirit, because that movie's about a ghost. She's
really?
Yes. Who's haunting the...
That's
I think the story... I believe Blythe Spirit is... the ghost is the first wife of a man, and she's died, and he has remarried, and she's haunting them. But it's a comedy. It's not a scary thing at all. But it is kind of funny that this thing is scaring me all the time. This dress form. But the last thing I'm going to say about this dress form is about body image. And I'm heavier than I was years ago when I was sewing. And I always think, I need to lose weight. I'm a lot heavier than I was. And I have this mental image of myself as being enormous, because I am heavier than I was when I was in my 20s or 30s. I'm heavier than I was before Ben was born. And I had never gotten back to where I was before I had Ben. So, but I dialed her up. She has these dials, and dialed her up so I have the hip size and the waist size and the bust size is all in there. And I stand and I look at her, and it's like, she's not that big. So they're my dimensions. And so it's interesting. When in my body, I feel like I'm bigger
than when
I'm actually outside looking at a 3-dimensional representation of my figure, I'm not as big as my mental picture of myself. Very interesting.
That is interesting.
Very interesting, yeah. So she's been good. Besides, maybe I'm probably going to lose weight because she's scaring me so much too. I can't eat anything.
All that adrenaline.
Yeah.
It's good for weight loss. Oh my God. That's funny.
It's so funny. It's so funny. Anyway, so I think that's all I want to say about that. That's probably enough said about the dress form.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I just wanted to talk about, and again, this has nothing to do with knitting, but it's just really interesting to me, is Ben's girlfriend. She rents a room in a house not too far from where we live, and the room had bookshelves on the wall when she moved in, and she came home from work one day and they'd all fallen off because whoever had put them up had not screwed the shelves into studs, just screwed them into the sheetrock. So she and Ben had been looking for it. They'd gone to the Goodwill looking for a bookcase for her, and no luck. Well, anyway, her family came to visit, and Ben and her dad decided they were going to make a project of this. The dad wanted to build something. So in Ballard, there's a place called the Restore, and Kelly, you've been there, and you and Robert have been there.
Fun place.
Really fun place, and it's where you can go find doorknobs and hinges and sinks and lighting. And I haven't bought very much there, but if I have anything that I don't need, I bring it down there, and you can donate building supplies. So they went down there and they got a bookcase and they got a chest and a little chest of drawers, and they bring it back. And so I go out there to see what they've got, and I look at this chest of drawers, and I am not kidding. I'm not making this up. This chest of drawers had belonged to my mom a year ago, I think.
Because I was there. It wasn't this past January. It was the January before.
And because it was there in the basement, right, when you were there. And it was a wood chest, and it has like a door on one side. It has one drawer that goes across the top, a door on the bottom, and then 2 drawers on the left, kind of. And my mom had it in the sewing room in the basement, and it was actually left in the house when they bought the house in 1962. So I don't know where the thing came from, but it was just in the house when we moved in, and she always used it in the sewing room, and she had it full of buttons and rick-rack and zippers, notions, and there was notions, all that kind of stuff. And we were having to get rid of things, and we decided that needed to go, and I started to actually sort through it, and I thought, I can't deal with it because it's, all that stuff I hate. So I just gave it to the Goodwill the way it was. My brother dropped it off the Goodwill with all this stuff in there. Anyway, they buy this thing. I said, what'd you pay for it? $60. And it still had the inside thing there. The drawers were painted kind of a aqua blue and lined with contact paper. Mm-hmm. And it still had the same paper in there. Wow. And it had writing. Somebody had sanded it, and somebody had taken off the wood handles and put on brass handles.
So someone took it from the Goodwill and did something with it and then decided not to keep it.
Yeah.
Probably.
So is that the weirdest thing? And I went out there and I said, I cannot believe this. It was the weirdest thing. We gave that to the Goodwill over a year ago.
Yeah.
And it's back in my life.
You have a very odd relationship with secondhand stores. They call you.
Well, and the funny thing is, I got rid of this. I didn't go anywhere, and it showed up in my house because they were working on it out in the garage. I'm like, wait a minute, this is so weird.
That is cool, though.
Yeah. Anyway, it's darling what they did with it, and I took a picture of it, so we'll post it in the show notes.
Okay.
So the chest is on the bottom, and then this bookcase, and I think there's 3 or 4 shelves. They painted kind of a green, bright green kind of. Mm-hmm. And then they got beadboard. The original bookcase just had like this really thin kind of plywood on the back.
Uh-huh.
And they took that off and they found beadboard at the Restore, and they cut that to size and they put it on the back of the bookcase, and then that just sits on top of the little chest. It's very cute. It's very HGTV, mm-hmm. Shabby chic. It's cute. So anyway, but that is so funny.
Yeah, that is amazing.
Mm-hmm. I just can't get rid of stuff. It keeps coming back.
Well, no, it's not in your house. That's good.
I know, thank goodness, yeah. But it made me. It was just kind of sweet that his girlfriend ended up with something of my mom's. It was kind of not intentionally, but it ended up there.
Right. So, yeah, that's very cool. It's a great story. I love that.
So, do we have anything else we need to talk about?
I don't think so.
Well, and we should probably just make another little announcement, too. We have been talking about this, but we are going to Black Sheep Gathering.
Yes.
In Albany, Oregon. It's the last weekend in June. And the main thing is just to remind people that we are going to be having the meetup at the trailer, because you and Robert are driving up with the trailer.
Yeah. And that'll be on Saturday, which I think is the 30th.
Sunday is July 1st. I know that, because I had to buy the train ticket.
Yeah, the July 1st is the end of it, and so then the Saturday will be the 30th. And then the first day is the 29th. So it's the 29th through the 1st of July.
Yeah.
Very excited. I can't wait to go. It's going to be fun. Judge I haven't seen before, so that'll be fun, too. Get to hear another judge's perspective of the fleece judging. A little party at the trailer afterwards on Saturday afternoon, evening.
Yeah.
So more details to come. And then I think I mentioned, or I put a thread in the Ravelry group of events, and in there I mentioned about the fleece judging at the Monterey County Fair, which I believe is August 11th. And then of course the fleece auction is Labor Day. But I posted some information about the Monterey County Fair, the dates for the different things for the Monterey County Fair in the Ravelry group. So,
well then, goodbye, Kelly.
Okay.
We'll,
all right.
Until we talk again.
Say hello to Blythe for me.
Yes, I will.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit 2usfiberadventures.com. We have links for iTunes, Google Play Music, YouTube, and others.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2 U's
doing our part for World Fleece.